live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Is Brian Kelly seriously about to pull off the unthinkable? Uh-oh. Somebody told Brian Kelly to stop recruiting. Uh-oh. Hashtag Ricky reconsidered. You know, it's funny is if you were subscribed to the AYS message board yesterday morning at 8:30, you would have known something that we dropped in for Ricky Collins Jr., the very talented quarterback out of Woodlawn, who did decommit from Purdue yesterday. I don't know how Zach just did that, but that looks fantastic. No idea how he did it, but it looks fantastic. But yes, subscribe to the AYS message board, AYSSnetwork.com. Only $7 per month. So we did drop that in there. Ricky Collins did decommit. So something that we will mention early here tonight. Can Brian Kelly pull that off? Can he flip the very talented four-star from Baton Rouge? We talked about Kylan Jackson. We talked about Shelton Sampson Jr., and their commitments within the next week. Mike Scarboro from TigerBait.com will be joining us at 7:30 to talk LSU football upcoming. Also recruiting and just get his takes about the season, overall SEC, and things like that. So really looking forward to Mike Scarborough being on with us. So a lot that we have to talk about tonight as well with Ricky Collins and the recruiting process and camp. Literally, guys, it's here. Zachy, it's here. It's here. Yeah. Bro. The guys report, the players report tomorrow. It is live up in this hoe. God, I'm excited. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Blake Ruffino, and I love college football. And tomorrow we start. So we got a lot to get into. We will have a lot of things to talk about. Aunt Marshall says, I'm just here for Mike Scarborough. Well, that's good because he'll be here at 7:30. He will be here at 7:30, so that's great. Fantastic. And then LGZ says that hat is fire. It is fire. You can't come on the show, buddy. You're butt naked.
No, I'm mommy.
Come here. Say hey. Say hey. He's buck-ass nude. Get your pants on, boy. Go in there. If you don't know, that's my son, Benjamin. He just got out the tub, and we don't have a lock on the new studio. I need to get that done this weekend. But let me say this, though, very quickly before we get started. Aunt Marshall and LGZ, y'all should be ashamed of yourselves with probably the worst take that I've ever heard in my life, saying Derek Jeter is overrated. I don't know what the punishment should be here. Like, I have no idea. But the Rudy Poos to saying Derek Jeter's overrated? Come on, man. And speaking of that, the MLB trade deadline was today. We'll talk about that at the end of the show when we bring Zach and everybody up in here. So got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of good things. Stuart West says, my MILF shirt is on the way. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Man, I love football. That is what MILF stands for here at AYS. Man, I love football. Yes, it is. Zach says, love the new hat. Blake, yeah, y'all like how Believe is spoiling your boy? Because him in with that highlight bling, that can only mean one thing. Ant says, don't disrespect me like that, Holden. But you're acting like a real Boston fan right now, Ant. I tell you. I'm just joking. I'm joking with him. LGZ. Doug Ray says, Ben is the boss. That he is. Wait till he finds out he's going to have a brother or sister on November the 7th. I don't think he's going to be too happy. Let's get to a couple comments, though, before we get started. Mike Scarborough joining us in 20 minutes. Jamie Brady says, do you think Jay is finished for the upcoming season? No. We'll be dropping something tomorrow morning in reference to that. So be on the lookout. What I can tell you is that Jay is not done. If there's one thing I can tell you is that Jay is not done. So looking forward to that. A lot of people loving the hat. Okay. I'm digging it. Don O'Kelly Jr., Mr. Don, says somebody said BK can't recruit. Yeah, it's you. Normally people from Indiana. Go see your mother. Go. Close the door on your way out. Give me a kiss. Love you. Go. But look, mommy's got some ice cream or something. Go. All right. We got to get a lock on that door. We got to get a lock on that door, man. Anyway, LGZ says second that and. Well, I mean, Big Poppy's probably more overrated than Derek Jeter is. Just throwing that out there. All right, so let's do this. Guys, let's get started with all this. Zeus says Ben is the co-host. That he is, Zeus. Ben is the co-host. He is the guy. So let's do this. Everybody do us a favor and hit the like and share. So many of you are watching us live right now on Facebook. So many of you are watching us live on YouTube. Hit the like and share to all of your social media platforms, wherever you're listening to this show, Facebook, YouTube, all that. Hit the notification bell, subscribe button, all that great stuff. We greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to us on the audio podcast platform or XM Radio, we'll have some big news in the next couple of months in reference to that. So very much looking forward to our partners over at XM and our partners over at Believe. So really looking forward to that. So stay tuned. So like, subscribe, all that great stuff. It's going to be really fun. So Zach, we do have a lot to get into. So let's pay these bills very quickly and then go back, because Ricky Collins did decommit from Purdue. Is Brian Kelly going to pull off what everybody said that he couldn't do inside the state? We'll talk about that in a minute and a half after we pay these bills. We will be right back. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to servicing your vehicle than GM Varnado & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down on the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varnado & Sons. Go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992. 225-664-9992. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. All right, these comments are flying in here. Absolutely. Doug Knows says Derek Williams is the only quote-unquote loss, in my opinion. Well, look, I don't consider that a loss at the current moment, guys. We're not in December. You know, what's funny is everybody talks about, well, oh, the kid says he's committed. He's not fully committed until he signs that piece of paper. But then you want to go and flip Derek Williams. Make up your mind. But look, and we're going to start here, so I'm going to get to a couple comments very quickly, and then we'll get to the whole Ricky Collins and the guys that I think are trending in the right direction for LSU. But Holden Lee says, damn, Ant, that's harsh on that one. I think Ant said that Holden boils his crawfish with orange juice after Holden said Ant puts raisins in his potato salad. Zach, have you ever seen Zach is probably the only white guy I've ever met that eats raisins in his potato salad. Like, don't come at me with that. I'm not white. I'm what you call olive. I have great olive Italian skin. So I don't put raisins in my potato salad, but I think Zach does. So a lot of jawing back and forth inside the comments. I absolutely love it. Dale says on YouTube, Shelton Sampson Jr., Zalance Hurd, Ricky Collins, Kai Preen, and Kylan Jackson, hashtag Big Cake Takeover. So let's start there because late last night, and we mentioned it a little bit yesterday, but again, we can talk about this plan. We can talk about the process. We can talk about the standard. We can talk about LSU. We can talk about so many things, guys, right? Like there's so many ways that we can go here. And we're going to talk a lot of recruiting with Mike in 15 minutes. But the truth is, it's always been a plan. This has been the plan. As you start summer fall camp, you could get two commitments from two highly rated Louisiana guys in Kylan Jackson and Shelton Sampson Jr. And now, as of late last night, Ricky Collins decommits from Purdue, highly talented four-star recruit from Woodlawn in Baton Rouge. Can you hashtag got Sloan or get Sloan? That's what's going on here. Is Joe Sloan, the quarterback's coach, making a big pursuit for Ricky Collins? Guys, if Brian Kelly and company are able to close out and even potentially flip maybe one of the guys that is not committed to LSU currently, don't tell me they're not doing good things in the state of Louisiana. When you got guys like Trey Holly from the 318, when you got Caleb Jackson from Liberty, if you're able to get Zalance Hurd, this recruiting class, there's a lot of talented pieces here, and Brian Kelly and company are doing what they need to do to get these guys on campus. I'm not worried about Arch. I'm not worried about Jaden Alsbury. I think that, with his brother and himself, these kids maybe just want to get out, and that's perfectly fine with me. Perfectly fine with me. But if you get the recruits that is projecting, and look, Harvey Broussard is another guy that some people are pretty high on, the wide receiver. So when this is all said and done, LSU will have a plan. You know what's funny, though, Zach, and we've talked about this a lot, is I think the very simple nature that Brian Kelly has kind of been under attack ever since he's been at LSU. And whether it be family, whether it be they're behind in NIL, the booster base isn't getting behind him, whether it be in recruiting, portal, quarterback, whatever it may be that Brian Kelly and people have had an issue with, every single time that fans or national media or the non-mass going Catholics that root for Notre Dame, when they start jawing their mouth, every time they say something negative about Brian Kelly, everything they said comes out to be false. Everything. And all of those things so far in the 7 months that he's been here. Now I wonder, and I wonder so much, if there is a situation where now, and if you missed it today, Athlon Sports came out with this projected bowl that LSU would be going to this season. They have them going to Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Bowl, which would mean that LSU's 8-4. So if Brian Kelly has proven everybody wrong since he's been at LSU so far, is he going to prove us all wrong and majority of people wrong this season? When a guy like Brian Kelly has had 10-win seasons at Notre Dame, 5 10-win seasons in a row, can he do it here? Because it seems to me that every time someone starts moaning, he proves them all wrong. We're about to find out because they'll be here Thursday. God bless it. I really do hope that is the case, because I think LSU does sit in a good position, 8-4, 9-3. If that man wins 10 games in the regular season, Build him a statue, for crying out loud. Maybe not a statue, but give him some hardware. Give him some hardware. Perfectly fine with me. Perfectly fine with me. I still believe that Brian Kelly's going to prove a lot of us wrong, myself included. Guys, I continue to lean to this 8-4 type of season. That's where I currently sit without seeing these guys and who's the quarterback going to be. That's where I sit right now is 8-4. I think Brian Kelly alone is worth 2 wins. I think this staff is worth 2 wins. So if you win 6 games a season ago, I think LSU could easily win 8 games. They have the talent. They do have places and areas along this team where they have talented depth. But we talk about all this all the time. Experience can somewhat, I don't want to say trump talent, but sometimes it can in certain situations. I'm really intrigued to know what the offensive line, who is this starting 5 on that offensive line? If you've been following us for a long time, you know how high I am on guys on the offensive line like Marlon Martinez. I'm very high on Marlon Martinez. I thought that he was your most consistent offensive lineman a season ago. Just ask Florida. LSU rushed for 100 yards against Kentucky after he was entered into the game. They rushed for 100 yards against Texas A&M. The young man is really talented. Can he play center? Can he play guard? That young man can play. You have a talented freshman All-American like Miles Frazier. Does he stay at the guard position? Do you kick him out to right tackle? You know what Will Campbell can give you. A lot of inexperience there. Marlon Martinez returning will be probably, outside of Anthony Bradford, the most experienced person on your offensive line when it comes to experience in the SEC. But we've seen guys like Marlon Martinez really wreck shop. That could look like your offensive line, and you know what you have at wide receiver. You know what you have at running back. And, guys, I hate to say this, but it's just the truth. When I hear some people talk about even if Jaden Daniels were the starter, they think that he's a worse thrower or equal thrower of guys like man, I might not need to say that. Maybe I don't need to say that. He's not the worst thrower of the football that LSU's ever had. Let me just put it like that. Defense, I think, is going to be fine. There are concerns all across the field. I say concerns. There's worries. There's worries for me. I got to see some things. I 1,000% got to see some things. So you can fire in your projections. You can fire inside your comments. What do you believe as we start fall camp today? As we start fall camp or tomorrow, what are your projections? What is your record for LSU? Fire it inside the Rudy Crew chat. What do you think LSU's record is going to be? I would love it. I want to see it. Father Abear says, no mass going Catholics. It's true. Those people in Notre Dame don't go to mass, Father Abear. Kyle on YouTube says, Blake, Italians are white people. As a fellow Italiano, don't deny your European roots. Be proud of them. Some of the world's greatest scientists, engineers, etc. don't fall for a liberal agenda. Kyle, let me say this, bud. It was a joke. There's one, you can bring your politics to any other sports show. Don't bring it in here. It's a joke, buddy. It's a joke. Take it as one. God, sometimes, man, you guys get your panties in a damn wad. Stop talking about politics in a sports show. I don't bring my politics in here, neither should you. Stop with the bullshit. Keaton says, yes, he can, and he will be starting this year. Who are you talking about, and why are you yelling? Brandon Reed says, if BK goes 9-3 or 10-2, he deserves SEC Coach of the Year. He would deserve it. Would he get it? I don't know. if you get an undefeated Alabama, if you get an undefeated Georgia, maybe, what if Tennessee gets to 10 or 11 wins and LSU does beat them? We'll see. Rick Mobley says BK is here for a natty. He don't give a Rudy poo about local or national BS. I agree with that. I 1,000% agree with that. Dylan says 9-3. Ed O says 8-4. Tigers Avenue Podcast, aka Zach, says 8-4. Homer and me wants to pick 9-3 or 10-2. And Marshall says 9-3. A lot of people are saying the same thing. I don't disagree with you guys. I think that Brian Kelly is talented enough and a good enough coach to give you 10 wins. And as an example, and I know that it's bad to look about a season ago because you don't have your same offensive line. When I watch games from, and I posted this on Twitter, when I watch the games from last season as an example, and I watch the offense, nobody is returning on your offensive line that played. Ty Davis Price is not returning. Max Johnson's not returning. The only core group of guys that is returning is in your wide receiver core. Literally 2/3 of your offense is not returning. Might be a good thing. It might be a good thing. We'll see. Brandon Reese says, looking at the undated depth chart, they have Will Campbell, Tremont Shorts, Charles Turner, Miles Frazier, and Cam Wire. I think that's going to be mixed up, Brandon, because we didn't have in the spring, Marlon Martinez was not there. Anthony Bradford was not there. Garrett Dellinger wasn't there. They had a lot of people that were not there this offseason or during, I guess you could just say spring. So for that alone, I think that's 1,000% going to change, right? Like it is going to change. King Ulysses says, honestly, 9-3, but hoping for an 11-1 record. I hear you, man. I hear you. Trevor says, what's going on with you Rudy Poo people? Trevor going for the jugular. James says 9-3. My good buddy C King says 11-1. All right. Majid on Facebook says, hi LSU 11-1. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about Ricky Collins, though, very quickly, because Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com is going to be joining us in about 3 minutes. Crying Belly says, who's pushing the narratives? What do you mean who's pushing narratives? Dude, stop asking that question. You sound like a Looney Tune when you keep saying that. Nobody's pushing a narrative. I'm asking all you guys what you think the records is. God, some of you guys. Let's talk about Ricky Collins, though, very quickly. Hashtag you got Sloaned. I mean, we'll ask Mike in 3 minutes, but I don't know if Ricky Collins decommitting was inevitable, but I would say that it makes me feel a lot more confident about this class. Look, I don't know how much pressure LSU had to put on Ricky to decommit, but I do think it's kind of ironic that they had this Bayou Splash and everything seems to go well. Brian Kelly, some people around the program are saying that him and BK and Joe Sloan had a one-on-one and they were talking and Brian Kelly sold him and he closed him to, maybe switch his commitment or at very least decommit. I like it, man. There's a lot to be excited about. And we've talked about this with Ricky Collins before. There's only one real thing that I knock Ricky Collins on. But we've seen him go to places. We saw him go to the Elite 11 and be the most accurate quarterback there. You had guys like Malachi Nelson, Eli Holstein, a laundry list of very talented quarterbacks. And the most accurate guy at the Elite 11 after 300 passes was Ricky Collins at something like 80%. There's a lot of things that you can teach. One thing that you can't teach is elite accuracy. Now, you can get better with it. The only thing, though, for me, and it is just the throwing motion. I don't like the long throwing motion. He goes here, then up, then gone. That is a pure, we were talking about Derek Jeter earlier. That is a shortstop type of fielding. Field, belt, plant, down, up, fire. That is Ricky Collins. I don't know if there's if Joe Sloan, and when we interviewed him, I think about a month and a half ago, we were talking to him about fundamentals. Joe said, and he told us, like, look, there's a lot of high school quarterbacks in the country that might be poor on a certain fundamental. I don't worry about that if I can fix it. That's something that's very fixable with a quicker release. But I like the accuracy. And I don't know if Mike went to the Catholic game, the Catholic Woodlawn game a season ago. I'll ask him that. But Ricky Collins kind of put his team on his back and won that game. So, look, this 5A record, and I know that Mike travels all across the place, but if you look at this 5A local, like Baton Rouge area, these 5A teams, man, what a laundry list of great games. You got Tyree Adams and St. Aug going to Zachary. You got Woodlawn going to Catholic in a revenge type of game. You know, I see some of those little high school guys on Twitter kind of jawing back at one another. Going to be a lot of fun, man. Going to be a lot of fun. Pooh Bear's in the building. He was coaching his son's football team, who, by the way, apparently Pooh Bear's 27-0, he said, as a head coach. Can you believe that? He said he runs the Joe Brady offense, and he channeled his inner Ed Orgeron about bringing the binder and everything. How about that? Shades of Ed Orgeron. Jawan Hearn says LSU's going 7-5. Okay, I'll let you get obliterated in those comments. Poor Jawan. Jawan, you're about to get ripped alive, dude. All right, let's do this. We got Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. Go to his website, TigerBait.com. Subscribe to his message board. Always fantastic comments and content in there. And Preston, our good friend Preston, launched his show again last night. He had on special teams coordinator and recruiting coordinator Brian Polian. So go check that out at LSU Tigers on Tiger Bait. So let's get the man in here. Let's pay these bills. Let's talk about our good friends over at Gramco. Guys, we will be back in 1 minute exactly to bring you the legend himself, Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. Guys, I've got to talk to you about our good friends over at Gramco. They are the Delta 8 company based out of the state of Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Gramco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast, as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Gramco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25. Gentlemen, the man of the hour, the man with the plan, the man with the great hair, Tiger Bait's own Mike Scarborough. Buddy, what's happening?
How you doing, man?
Did you know that it's been 6 months to the day that you've been on AYS? You've been ducking me.
Well, it's hashtag Scarborough effect. It's time for some page views.
Very true. It's true, Mike. It's true. But I'm so glad to have you back, man.
No, I'll tell you what, man. It's I'm so excited because, but of course, we've got a mutual friend in the media that's been busting me all day long. Where's our release from LSU? What's the practice times? What's the, it's like I'm ready to go, but I don't know what we're gonna get. What's the delay? Why don't we know what the practice times are and what the media is getting? And are we getting Brian Kelly? Well, I don't think we're getting him tomorrow. Are we getting him after practice Thursday? I also think it's very interesting that Jay Nosberry is now announcing it's 6:30 Thursday night. which usually corresponds at about the exact time where we're in the meeting room waiting for Brian Kelly to come out and talk about the first day of practice. So, it's, I'll put in a prediction for Notre Dame for him. But anyways, I think I don't know. I'm real curious to see what we're going to get. Are we going to get 5 days? We're going to get 13 days? What's going to be our access?
Mike, as you remember a season ago, how many practices did we try to go to and it got rained out? It was like you called me the bad luck charm. You remember this?
I remember. Look, dude, it was and look, I had my good friend who was sponsoring our practice reports, and it was so much per practice report. I didn't make any of that money because I was always on Burbank making a U-turn when I'd get a text saying practice has been canceled because of bad weather or lightning, and I'm just going to make up a number. If there were 18 practices, I think like 14 of them were rained out.
Yeah, remember that Saturday was really hot. Was really the only one.
Yeah, I mean, so and I think that's part of the reason. If you want to, I know Brian Kelly mentioned a week ago about how he'd watched the UCLA film and the players looked like they had dead legs. I think a part of that was the fact that they were in that indoor facility practicing for most of August, on top of having to go to Houston, and what that can do to you, in the head and everything.
So, Mike, let's start off there. So, camp, the guys do report tomorrow. Camp starts on Thursday. When those gates open for practice, whenever it is the time that we're going or whenever, what is the first thing that Mike Scarboro is going to look at?
I'm gonna be like everybody. We're gonna go straight for quarterbacks, and but look, of course, they always position the offensive line in that no man's area where your camera lens is being blocked by a tent and blocking sleds. But certainly, I want to see what we can see at center in the amount of time we've got. And then you want to see Bernard Converse, and what does he look like? Who's wearing colored jerseys, that meaning they're not to have contact. Of course, the first few days of practice, there's no, they're not in full pads anyways. But that's some of the things I want to see. And then, obviously, because they're going to be in shells, you're going to get a good look at some of the freshmen that were not midterm grads. They got there in June. And what do they look like physically in just a couple of month period of time? That to me, that's always, all of your football players are going to mature physically throughout their years at LSU. But that first 6 months of a freshman, it's amazing how quick they come along, particularly the guys that, have those thin frames that can soak up a lot of nutrition because they're finally eating the right amount of calories every day. They're not running the roads with their friends in high schools. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that.
Mike, I think that was the first thing for me. Like, we've heard Brian Kelly and we've heard from others that guys like Anthony Bradford's down 20, 25, maybe even 30 pounds. Mike, if that's the case, what does that young man look like, right? Like, how is everybody looking? I remember when we first spoke with Mike Jones when we brought him on the show. Mike, I think he gains a solid 15 pounds. Lean, though. Like, lean, just he looks bigger. He looks healthier. That would be the first thing that I see. Now, you talk about quarterbacks, and you talk a little bit about the offensive line. Is there any specific position group defensively you're looking forward to?
Well, I want to, I think obviously you want to see some of the DBs. I think all of them. But, look, the defensive line is going to be the strength of that unit. And so, we've talked all year about, or all off season about Mason Smith and Ali Gay and Ojulari. And Jaquelin Roy tells me in June that this is his money year and he's motivated. Jacoby and Guillory wants to make a stamp on things. Then you got Wingo that transfers in and he gets the Iron Tiger Award. So they've got some bodies there to rotate in on that defensive line. So regardless of what access we get media-wise, whether it's 5 practices, 12, I think you're going to – it's like fail. And you get it in the summertime. But you in about a week and a half to 2 weeks, I think LSU fans really start to tune out a bit because they're ready for football. They've talked about it enough. There's only so much you can say anymore. And so really what you're really going to be looking out for beyond the first few days, we all want to see pictures of Harold Perkins. We all want to see what he looks like. The newcomers, the guys that you haven't seen. But from then on out, what you want to hear every day is that there's been no injuries. You don't want to hear at 9:30 at night, so-and-so was carted off the field. That's the one thing you don't want to hear. And there's certain positions where you particularly don't want to hear that at.
Well, Mike, I mean, you look at Tampa Bay, they've lost 4 offensive linemen in a week. 3 of them could be season-long injuries. 3 of those guys are Pro Bowlers. So you're right. I mean, you don't want to see that. That would be absolutely.
And I think if you believe in karma, the rash of injuries that we've seen at LSU the last few seasons, I think they're due for some good karma in that regard. Some of the injuries that LSU players have had have just really been, I mean, freak accidents, non-contact drills. I mean, there's been a whole lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, like last year, I remember what was it, practice, I think second to last practice, remember Ed Orgeron coming out and saying Glenn Logan broke his leg and just running. Like, I mean, it was a lot of bad karma, it felt like a season ago. Mike Scarborough joining us. Look, so we'll obviously be monitoring a lot of this practice reports this week, but we do have a lot of recruiting going on. You have Shelton Sampson Jr. committing Saturday, Colin Jackson, and obviously Ricky Collins decommitting. Look, I'm just going to kind of give you the floor on this one. Well, let me ask this first, and then we'll get to that. But, Mike, they had the Bayou Splash. There seems to be a lot of energy with these Louisiana kids. How do you take all of this in, and what can you tell our listeners about that?
I just think it's been a progressive work towards these goals with the Louisiana kids. Kids that maybe they were behind the 8 ball because the relationships need to be established. All new coaches coming from out of state. Maybe kids that didn't get offered till late. You got to work your way through some of those hurdles. But it's also that time of year. I mean, it is, kids want to get it done now, and which I like. I think, and look at some of the kids that are announcing. They're all a part of big programs, high school programs that are legitimately in the talk to win state titles. They don't want to have the recruiting stuff lingering out there. And one thing we've seen over the years too is a lot of kids be traveling a lot more in the off season, even out of state visits, on unofficial visits to visit a lot of schools. I think it's a combination of kids not wanting this hanging over them during their senior year, and they want to be able to concentrate on football. And I also think it's a lot of kids who are frankly tired of the recruiting process. And of course, years ago when the early signing period was put in effect in December, that sped up the recruiting process. So, back in May or early June, we were saying what's going to be the over and under on how many commitments they're going to have before Labor Day. And, most years in the past decade, they've been hovering around 18, 19, 20. And sure enough, they're going to be right where they've always been when all the dust settles on the flurry that they're about to have. So kudos to them. And of course, a lot of it too is it's not 25. It's going to be somewhere in the mid 30s. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of kids, man. When I'm charting out where I'm going this fall, I'm really wanting to get us out to see some kids that are some sleepers. So are there some guys, because they're not bound to the 25? Are there a lot more guys like Jordan Allen, the Jordan Allen types, maybe a David Jones at Madison Prep, the offensive guard at Dutchtown, who I love, who's also committed to Purdue. Some of those type of guys out there, could they get offers late? I think there's more room for that now.
Mike, I said this before you came on, and I was just kind of writing some games that I would want to go to this year. And I think I told you this, what was it, last week? Mike, this 5A battle that we have around Baton Rouge is absolutely, and New Orleans is absolutely deadly. As an example, you have Jordan Matthews going up against Shelton Sampson again. 2 guys that are battling to and probably will go to very prestigious Power 5 programs.
That game is at Woodlawn.
Right.
Go look at you talked about Zachary's schedule. Go look at Woodlawn's schedule.
Brutal. They
play Lafayette Christian. They host Catholic High, St. James, U High. It's not just 5A. when I started covering recruiting, and it's really been since the dust has settled on Katrina and the population infusion in the Baton Rouge area. Baton Rouge area high school football was the dregs for a long time. It got for most of you'd have Donnie Jones at Catholic High, you'd have Michael Clayton at Christian Life, you'd have a Marcus Spears, but to have what you're having now at some public schools, that was unheard of. So that's why I'm always calling out. You've got Liberty, which is the former Lehigh, now at Caleb Jackson. Woodlawn has never had players until Mark. Well, I'll say this: they had players, but they weren't academically qualified. They'd have some guys that you would maybe be interested in, but of course, we know what Zachary is doing year in and year out. Madison Prep is a power. And so Struma last year having a player.
And Mike, some of those teams, I think I forget one of the Baton Rouge teams, but their jamboree is against Capri and St. James. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I forget, but I remember seeing like St. James's schedule, and they're playing from somebody in Baton Rouge, if I'm not mistaken. And you got Kai Prink going up against somebody else.
And I should know who that is because I talked about that last week with somebody. I don't think it's Madison Prep. I think Madison Prep's got Scotland. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways,
East Scotlandville. I think
no, Madison Prep has Woodlawn. Okay, there's another one for Woodlawn. That's a game in itself.
Mike, so to quickly interrupt you and ask you this, Ricky Collins obviously decommit, and Woodlawn is obviously where he plays. With this tough of a schedule, if this young man goes out and balls out, what then? I mean, I know that LSU's at the hot pursuit, but I guess tell us about his recruitment. And I mean, if he's got this tough of a schedule and he goes out and does some great stuff, I mean, Mike, could teams circle back on him?
Look, he's got some good athletes around him. I don't know about what his offensive line looks like at Woodlawn. I know they've got a running back there. But I mean, you talk about beating Catholic and almost beat him 2 years ago. So yeah, the Woodlawn's going to be a power. But I feel sorry for Liberty after 1 year of 4A being haven't been in the upper level. They get 1 year and then they're in that 5A district now.
That's insane. That's not going to be good for
Caleb Jackson's going to have a rough go of it.
Well, let's see how good he does. Mike, what about Ricky? I mean, I know that you weren't surprised. I know that you've been hinting at this for about maybe 2 months. He decommits officially last night. I guess, what are your thoughts around Ricky Collins?
Well, I kidded with Preston yesterday. He said, man, well, he's been saying that he's 110% to Purdue. I said, yeah, but Preston, he's been working on a 200 scale.
Preston did say that he's going on 1,000% scale from now on.
Yeah. But no, look, I was the first guy to go out and film Ricky, 2-3 years ago. And I've loved him ever since. And I love his mom, Precious. And he's right here. He's coached by Marcus Randall. He's well liked. He's been around the LSU program. All the current players know who he is. All the players in the area, all the high school players in the area know each other. They all grew up together. Some of them might end up at a charter school, this and that, but we'll see. It's going to be very interesting.
I hear the little dog chirping.
Yeah, you hear Parker with the squeaky toy.
He's excited. Football season is here. Mike, look, we can talk about recruiting all the live long day, but there is one more, last question I have for you about recruiting. This class looks to be coming together pretty well. I mean, I don't know where they end up. I guess when you look at this class and the potential that it has, should there be a lot of excitement around this class in just the 7 months that this staff has been at LSU?
I think if this class is inside the top 10, it's a win, because it's not just going to be what they do with the high school kids. It's going to be, I still think there's going to be, I don't know what the number will be, a half a dozen. They're not going to go, I don't see them going into the teens with transfer portal kids again. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see it. But I think there could be some very salty transfer portal kids that are brought in to sprinkle in on top of it. So when you consider in the state, and I believe it is down, and you can talk about Arch Manning and Holstein and, you know, and on. Tackett Curtis, I still think the state is down. You know, there's reasons behind each of those guys, and I can also say that a lot of those guys might be a little bit overrated. So, is there a true 5-star in the state of Louisiana is the question. You know, last year you could make the case that there were 4 or 5, maybe even 6 guys that you could stand on a table on a national network if you covered Louisiana and make a case for this kid or that kid being a 5-star. And maybe they end up only as a high 4, but there were some kids that you could legitimately, you know, stand on the table and argue that it should be a 5. How many of those guys can you say that about this year?
I know. I remember 2 years ago when you went and saw a team called Edna Carr, and you were pretty upset about how anybody could have Aaron Anderson. I know that
didn't he end up at a 5-star by somebody or 2 of them?
All of them.
Yeah, well, he was a 3-star at New Year's Day, wasn't he?
He ended, and I don't mean this disrespectfully for 247. He was the number 1 player in the state last year. I kind of thought that was a little hysterical, but you had been calling that for a while.
Well, at one time, he was the 47th rated receiver in the nation by that network you just named.
Yeah, he ended in the top 5. Yeah, he ended in his recruitment in the top 5.
And so what does that do? What does that do? That feeds the narrative that there's an Alabama bias. All because they didn't have a recruiting regional guy that paid any time inside the borders of this state.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, but there was no reason whatsoever he deserved to be a 3-star. He was legitimately that good.
Pure idiocy. And by the way, there was some biases on another network too.
AYS?
No, another network.
I got you. I'm just messing.
He must have been on the wrong 7-on-7 team.
All right. Let's get to a couple of these questions in here for Mike. Aunt Marshall says, #ask Mike, who is a commit that LSU may get that no one is talking about? I know that you briefly talked about that. I'll kind of add to that. Your young man from Dutchtown, the guard, you've been pounding the table for him. Do you think he could be one, or who do you think?
Yeah. God dang it. He's at the top of my is Ethan. Now you're gonna make me Google him real quick. I love this kid. I've seen him in person, and I think he's a guy that you don't sleep on.
I'll try to help you look for them, guys. If y'all can help look for them as well. You're talking about Ethan Fields, right?
Ethan Fields, hard worker. Love the way he moves. I'm sure they can ding him. Maybe they like him an inch taller. Maybe they like his long sleeve shirt sleeve length to be a little bit longer, whatever it is. But that kid is a hard worker. Nobody's going to outwork him. And to me, if you're going to take a flyer on an offensive lineman, which I'm all for, particularly when you're not bound by 25, I say load up on an extra offensive lineman or two.
Mike,
it will never hurt you.
Let me ask you this question, because I said this last week. If LSU does get, because they got 6 offensive linemen, I get 2 of them were in the portal from a season ago. And let's say you do circle back on Ethan Fields and you get DJ Chester and Zalance Hurd, who I know that you are extremely high on. But Mike, if they get 11 offensive linemen in 2 classes, and especially this high caliber of guys, you got to hats off to Brad Davis, right?
Absolutely. And what were we saying last year about, we were looking at this year's class. We weren't really talking about Hurt a whole lot this time last year.
At all.
Right. And so it was Jamar Cain of the two line coaches that was going to have the toughest haul because Louisiana. And by the way, it's not going to be easy for him next year either. You got Cobbins at Destrehan, who's an edge rusher. Some might classify him as an outside linebacker. So again, Jamar Cain's going to have to go out of state. So I still think we're in a little bit of a hodgepodge already. It's like I can tell you right now, where's the quarterback in Louisiana for 24? Where is the running back in Louisiana for 24? There's still some missing pieces. So this whole national deal with Brian Kelly and people months ago saying you're not paying enough attention to Louisiana, they're absolutely wrong because you're going to need to be able to recruit regionally and nationally extremely well. And then you look out for those Lance Herds that come along and you be ready. But, if you're not talking about a 24 quarterback in the state of Louisiana now, he's probably not there.
Well, that's interesting. Where is the state very good at, in your opinion, for next year in the state?
Well, you're going to have wide receivers. This state's going to have them. You're going to have the defensive backs. I mentioned Cobbins. Really like him. Got the big tight end at East Feliciana. I really want to see him. Where is he at on LSU's board?
Did you by the way, did you see his catch at that little camp he went to? It was like they threw into quadruple coverage, literally.
Well, he's 6'7".
Mike, he went up and he mossed everybody, and I was like, okay, like I get it now. Like that young. I think Green, that young man can play, man.
Yeah, he can stand tall and tie my shoes.
Very true. Speaking of a guy that's really talented who's mentioned that he wants to play tight end or D end, is Nicholas Harbor. I know that it's kind of a funny little recruitment. How do you think LSU sits with him?
Let's see when the visits happen. I want to see who starts coming in. What are the how big of a crowd do you have for the Southern game? How quickly do you start bringing in kids for visits?
Mike, would you bring a lot of – I know this sounds crazy, and I know that they're an FCS opponent, but would you not bring a handful of kids in for Southern?
I think the Southern game is going to be as festive as you've ever seen.
Me too. Mike, yeah. I would bring as many kids as I could that week too, man. I mean, that band's, what if Southern plays neck, Mike? What's going to happen?
Oh, they're going to play it. Well, the question is, I don't. Is someone who's been to a Southern game, you have to tell me. How often do they usually play it each game?
Pooh Bear, can you help assist us with that one? I'm gonna ask Pooh because I don't know how much they play it but I know that they do. Yeah,
well, I'd like to know how many times they normally play it, and let's see if they match that when they come to Tiger Stadium.
So a lot of these questions, Mike, that they've been firing in for them, you've already kind of answered. So I'll try to get to one maybe that we didn't, and two more, and we'll get you on out of here. But Carl Dunn says, #Ask Mike, with Cardell Thomas switch be on this season? I guess what he's asking, do you think he turns it up a notch?
It's kind of like when you've been in the program this long, if you're not seen, and if you're not being mentioned by the coach, and you're not getting rotated in, you pretty much know you're the guy, and when you've been in the program for 3 years, you're being recruited over.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but what does Emory Jones do? There's a lot of praise for that young man. I mean, does he see playing time? I mean, the playing time, Mike, that he sees at potentially right guard is not playing time for Cardell Thomas. I hate to say it like that, but it's just the truth.
But I would like to know what Brad Davis's philosophy is on this, because you already know Will Campbell's playing, so that's a year gone. If you stay totally healthy on that offensive line, if you're able to stay healthy, and your starters are the guys, you want to get Emory Jones in there, but do you look forward to the fact that you can keep a red shirt on him if you can? Or is he just too damn good and the offensive line isn't cohesive at a certain point and it's time to let him fly? And you don't worry about it.
Mike, let me ask you this question, and this is, I know, out of left field, and this will be the last one. But Ben Wilkerson, when he came in, was like an Emory Jones, and I know Will Campbell might have like a more of an Andrew Whitworth type of feel to him, but with Emory Jones, I mean, when you were covering that team and Ben Wilkerson, what was that like when he was a freshman? Because he started as a freshman. What was that like? Did it have a lot of the same Emory Jones type?
Because Ben Wilkerson was like a national big-time guy. He was the number one center in the country. I don't know where he was at as far as all, the entire OL position, but you couldn't get any higher than Ben Wilkerson. And there was no, I guess maybe some of us, and maybe I'm getting foggy. I can't remember what the depth chart looked like or who he came in. But I don't tend to think that it was a shocker that he started right away. We know Whitworth started early. Saron Black was the last left tackle, I believe, to come in and start as a freshman.
Yeah, Mike, I watched that Virginia Tech game, the 2007 Virginia Tech game, and if you remember the old ESPN with who was the older guy who used to announce all the games? It's
Ron Franklin.
No, it was he's out in Vegas now. He does a lot of betting stuff.
Brent Musburger.
And Arlie Doucette was announcing the starting lineup on ESPN. And he said with his 51 start, with no injuries, Saron Black. He didn't say anything else. He just said Saron Black. And Mike, like they had his old picture and his new picture from a freshman to senior. Good Lord. I mean, that man must have put on 45 pounds of pure muscles. His traps almost hit his earlobes. That's how big his like traps were. It's insane. Go watch that if you hadn't seen it.
I don't think Saron Black got his due by a lot of people.
Mike, I'm telling you.
He doesn't get mentioned a whole lot other than now because of what Will Campbell's doing. But Saron Black was big time.
Last one I lied, and we'll get you out of here. Mike Jones Jr., Harold Perkins, Greg Penn, and Micah Baskerville. How do you see that position group shaking out if you even have a real thought process?
Are you buying into this deal that Harold Perkins would be a redshirt guy?
No, at all.
How quickly can he learn the college linebacker position?
Here's my personal opinion, and I would love to get yours. I don't think that he's going to see a lot of time in the inside role, right? I don't think I don't know that yet. I think that you could have, say, like a Marcel Brooks type of a role. Like we saw Mike Jones Jr. last year, Mike, when we saw him, rush on the outside, we saw him blitz a lot. I don't know if he's ready yet for like if a guard is zone blocking and getting to the second level, can he take on that block? I don't know that. I don't know what you believe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Matt House requires of each of those guys and how quickly he can pick that up and where it would make sense. If he's just a guy you're rotating in certain times or in cleanup, or again, or is that a guy where you're thinking, man, he's not quite there yet. Let's keep the red shirt on him. And then you got guys I know in Texas that saw him play almost every week. They swear up and down he's absolutely the best running back on LSU's roster.
Do you think, Mike, is there a scenario where we're halfway through camp and they're like, listen, we might give him a shot there? I hate to ask.
That would be the reverse Devin White,
Right.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. Right. But he is a curiosity as to how quickly he can come along, because even though he was rated the number 1 overall player in the state of Texas, everybody I know, because even when he was, thought to be leaning to Texas A&M, the Texas A&M recruiting guys, Brawny was right there in his backyard, saw him almost every week. They just were convinced he needed a red shirt. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Mike, at bare minimum, he's too good of an athlete not to play
Well,
special.
he's going to be on special teams. He's got to be.
I mean, that's what I think. All right, Mike Scarborough, TigerBait.com. You go to TigerBait.com. You go to message board or Tiger Den. You subscribe for the premium message board annual package, right? Am I getting this correct?
Yeah, choose the annual package. LSU Tigers on Tiger Bait is our YouTube channel, live tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. We're going to have practice reports, video, photo galleries. You'll get our text alerts, our newsletters. And we've got a nice recruiting update on Keelan Williams up on Keelan Moses. Here, do you see that?
Keelan Williams, yeah.
Moses. Man, that's years. Yeah, that's years of recruiting right there.
Hey, he's a lot bigger than I would have anticipated. He's a really tall kid. I didn't expect that.
He's longer than his brother.
Have you seen him play, by the way? Like, how much have you been able to see? I know, I mean, Mike, he's what?
I'm not the one who filmed him last year, but I saw it. I saw what we filmed.
What do you?
But I've got you high like 3 times throughout this upcoming season. So,
okay, let's see it, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
I'm praying that we have no rain in September, and that we have
August.
No, September, because there's a lot of games that I'm wanting to see and get guys filmed as quick as I can. And then towards the back end of the year, I'm able to double up and see them a second time. But usually the best matchups are early in the year, because you're seeing a lot of non-district games and you're seeing multiple guys on the field, out of district against each other. And so then after that, if there's some guy you need to see he's in North Louisiana, then you're praying they're going to make the playoffs, and then you're hoping they're going to get a draw down here, so you're not traveling to Oak Grove, Louisiana, or wherever.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are wanting me to take a trip with us to go to Farmerville, by the way. Like whenever they play Manny, I think. Tackett and them.
I think that game's in Manny, I thought.
Is it? Okay. Well, they want us to take the trip. I'm like, hey, man, you drive. I'll go. I wouldn't mind going to see that game. I think it'd be fun. All right, Mike, I've kept you long enough. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah. All right.
All right, buddy. We'll talk
soon.
All
right, Blake, thanks.
That's Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. Aunt Marshall says, hey, watch it. Well, man, I mean, what you gonna do, brother? Union doesn't play Manny this year. Okay. Well, I don't know who is it that Farmerville or Union Parish does play. Like when they're or who plays Manny that everybody wants to go see. And I forgot that one. Apparently, I had a pause moment too. Jeff Futch says Mike's a Sean Payton double. Just saying. I guess. Mark asked what's wrong with Farmerville. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. Let's talk about our good friends over at Drake Williams Law Firm, my good friend Carol Foss. We'll end it. I kind of got a little bit of a Rufino's rant. So I'm going to bring the guys in here and we'll end the show. So let's pay these bills. We'll be back in literally 1 minute or minute and a half. Excuse me. By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Rufino at AYS sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. All righty. We are back. Guys, let me ask you this question. Did y'all see today the Miami Dolphins have to give back, I guess, however you want to say it, their first-round pick after tampering with New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton? Let me tell you this. I'm kind of chapped about that. I'm pretty pissed because Brian Flores was right. They were tanking for Tua. And then they went after Sean Payton after hiring Brian Flores. I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on this? And, I mean, is Brian Flores the best-looking man in the NFL at the current moment? You're muted, Pooh. Say you're muted. You're muted, Uncle
All right.
Pooh. You're muted, Uncle Pooh. Tell him.
Thank you, Ben. First of all, shout out to Brian Flores for doing the Lord's work. I don't know. It also, the story that came out that we talked about a while ago that sounded so outlandish, now has a lot of legs to stand on.
It does. Zach, your thoughts?
I mean, it makes him look like a lot smarter man than he was before. So I have to agree.
Well, it does in a way in reference to, when people quote unquote cry wolf, a lot of people call you a liar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like a guy, that he didn't lie. Right. And so
who's got the egg on their face now?
Well, let me say this: the Miami Dolphins and Stephen Ross. I think that the Saints should get that first-round pick. Look, if you're going to tamper, you got to give the team that you're tampering against. Okay. Look, we got all this. Here's the crazy thing, though. You ready for this? Did you know that Stephen Ross, the Miami owner, has the same amount of game suspension that Deshaun Watson?
Interesting. He's got more games than never mind. I don't want to even go down that road.
Who?
I don't.
I mean, I'm sorry, not more games, but he's got less games than Ridley, who I don't
with the gambling.
I think that's
Didn't he get like a whole year? Wasn't it a whole year?
They gave him a whole season.
First off, if I'm Calvin Ridley, I would sue the NFL. Because we just saw Brian Flores sue the NFL, and the NFL didn't have a choice.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to ignore this comment. But
which one?
From Stuttering.
I don't worry about somebody that makes a burner account with that kind of shit. Look, number one, cover your ears, man. Cover your ears. When you have a small penis like the guys like that, then that's what kind of guys make burner accounts. I'm just going to say it ticks me off, all right? But I think Brian Flores he's vindicated.
Completely.
All right. Guys, we will go ahead and get on out of here. Zachy, thank you. He will not be here tomorrow because I got church, Mr. Blake. I don't know what Pooh Bear is doing. I don't know. I don't know. Pooh Bear, are you going to be with us tomorrow?
As the old folks say, if the Lord sees fit that I'm here.
If it's the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. That's what it is. God willing and the creek don't rise.
We don't grow up around.
All right, let me say this very quickly. Zach, we have 77,000 comments inside the chat saying shave that goatee. I'm just letting you know. Let me say this.
7,000 is a lot.
Every season before or every year before football season starts, I watch Remember the Titans. It's my favorite movie of all time. Yes. Left side, strong side. But this is the play that LSU's got to run week one. Play one. I want a fake Georgia blast or fake 23 blast with a backside Georgia reverse.
Yep.
Fake 23 blast with a backside Georgia reverse like you like to pin it on.
Like your life
I'm
depends.
going to watch it right now. I swear to God. I love Remember the Titans. Gotta love
They
it.
bring in the injured QB. It was beautiful.
Yeah. You ever seen a football injury, you wimps? All right, we're out of here, guys. We'll see y'all again soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts. Hey, tell them bye, Ben. Hold on, Zach. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Say thank you for watching Daddy's show.
Daddy show.
Say thank you for watching Daddy's show.
Show.
All right. We'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good night.
Awesome.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.